Hello, dear viewers. I'm the host of Cinema Recap World. Thank you for tuning into our channel, where we summarize the world's most famous movies in just 20 minutes. Today, we've got a truly fantastic film lined up, so let's dive right in and enjoy it together. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to support the channel.
In the past, John was an undercover agent of the CIA, whose rescue and peacekeeping missions were often given by other agents to eliminate high-ranking figures from other countries if they intended to harm U.S. interests. John's hands were bleeding profusely, which is why he decided to discharge from the army and look for a normal job. After wandering around in search of a purpose in life, he travels to Mexico to visit his friend, where the mafia rages lawlessly. The police and the government are helpless and have to turn a blind eye to let them kidnap and extort money and smuggle money all over the country without doing anything. Even as the hostages were crying out for help, no one came to help when John went to meet Rayburn on the west coast of the border between Mexico and Mexico. He was here enjoying a luxurious life, although the two were old comrades, but their lives were different from each other. John said he didn't know if God would forgive the crimes they had committed. Rayburn advised John to let go of the past and just look at him and see that there was nothing lacking in Mexico. Now John needs to find a job to reintegrate into society through an introduction. John is recommended by Rayburn to work as a private bodyguard for a wealthy family. It turns out that Mexican society is now so chaotic that wealthy people now need the safety of their families and possessions. They are willing to spend money to hire bodyguards as long as there are cases kidnapping and extortion didn't happen to his family at a luxury restaurant. Two successful businessmen are talking about the extortion of a neighbor in a wealthy neighborhood. The man said that the terrorists cut off the child's hand and then dropped him in the middle of the street. Doing big business with a few Japanese players, Sam is very afraid of competitors hiring people to harm his wife and children. The man advised him to hire a bodyguard because the whole area had only his house, and there was no one to protect him. That's why John and Sammy met today. Rayburn took John to the new boss and told him that he would just come for symbolism because the work was boring, and that he would only follow him because the rich like to burn money. But first, John needs to quit his addiction. Rayburn said that even if there was a real kidnapping, John would not be bored with anyone. Although he was fake and had the same fighting power as half a day ago, even Rayburn was shocked when he touched John. After a while, just as promised, Sammy tests John's driving skills to make sure that his driving skills make his family comfortable. In the car, Sammy skimmed through John's profile and seemed very pleased with his experience. John has 16 years in the military in the field of counterterrorism, which is exactly what he was looking for. But John said that the price to hire him was very high, corresponding to his work bravery. I don't know if he will accept to spend a large amount of money to protect his wife and children. After a while, John drove Sam home to introduce everyone that this would be the family's new bodyguard. Sammy's wife, Lisa, walked over to greet him. While the two were chatting, their daughter also ran back. Picha was a cute little girl who wanted to take John on a tour of the room she had renovated for John. At this time, John found himself more like a nanny and a child. John personally brought Picha to school because in the past week, there have been 24 kidnappings. The security guard at the school also carefully checked each school bus. Even John, when he brought Picha into class, had to sign to confirm. Here John met Sister Anna again. And it turned out that John was also Sister Anna's former student. She bullied John that she should never get lost no matter where life pushed him, receiving her encouragement. John was very touched. Then he got in the car and left. The work went smoothly. Until after school, John came back to pick up Picha home. She wanted to be friends with John, so she asked him a lot of things. He was very annoyed and asked her not to talk anymore. Picha saw this and led him down to sit in the back seat. When he got home, his mother asked him why he was upset because she loved John so much, but he was always sad and aloof from everyone. John said that he was hired as a bodyguard, not a nanny. The answer made Lisa very disappointed and left. However, people did not know it because they felt guilty for killing hundreds of lives. Every night John drank and gradually blamed the crime he had committed. He put a gun to his head to end his life, but John still couldn't pull the trigger. He called Rayburn to confide. The next morning, as usual, John was still driving Picha to school, this time with her mother to supervise John's work. Suddenly John realized that a strange car was following them. Through the rearview mirror, he saw their number plates. Later, Picha, even though he was cheating, agreed to lend John a pen just to record. Due to not paying attention to his car going downhill and almost crashing into another car, fortunately they still arrived at school safely. John is tasked with following Picha wherever he goes. When Picha went to swimming lessons, John followed her closely. However, during the observation, John noticed that Picha was always worried because she was the youngest in the group, so she was not confident and was always exhausted. Seeing this, John used his decades of experience as a special soldier to train Pitcha. He said that if she was still scared and did not dare to face it, she would not be able to win the upcoming contest. Back home, he taught her how to concentrate and start in time when the gun signaled off. This is also her weakness, so the relationship between the two uncles and grandchildren became better. Both of them read books and talked together. Pitcha says that he knows right away that John is not a bad person, even though he is a little cold. The words of comfort from an innocent little girl made John's soul seem to be somewhat soothed. Soon the day of the swimming competition came. Only John took her because both Pitcha's parents had gone on a long business trip. Before the exam, he encouraged her that Pitcha would definitely do it, because she was the smartest and kindest child John had ever seen. This time, the little girl didn't disappoint him. When the signal gunfire sounded, Pitcha also caught up with his opponent and plunged into the water. John was delighted to see her progress. Joy burst when Pitcha was the first to finish. Sister Anna also came and congratulated Pitcha. She said that John was her father today. This made John feel like he was saved. Since then, his life is no longer gloomy. Now John has a girlfriend. Pitcha also gave John a gift to thank him. This bear was bought by the little girl who spent money on breakfast, so John valued it very much. Inside there is also a necklace that will protect John at all times. That night, John was about to open the bottle of wine and make some meals as usual. In this family, only Pitcha's father knew that John was an alcoholic, but after thinking for a while, he decided to close the lid. John seemed to have found a little joy again, and he didn't need to drink to forget reality. The next morning, on the way to take Pitcha to school, she confided to him that she loved to swim, but her parents always forced Pitcha to play the piano. She also humorously asked John to break 10 fingers to save him from having to play the piano. Turns out that Pitcha is very smart and always pays attention to every small detail. She said that the day John borrowed a pencil to write down a strange license plate, Pitcha was also quick to write it down in the notebook. The two chatted happily. It was her innocence that warmed John's heart. He smiled more than before and his face had stopped being favorable. When he arrived at the piano class, Pitcha even gave John a flower to thank him for being friends with her. After the teacher informed John that the lesson would last an hour, he got back to the car and walked the dog while waiting for class to leave. While resting on the bench, his dog suddenly barked violently. In order to avoid causing trouble, he took it back to sea. And at this time John saw a police car passing by. Suddenly it quickly backed away and stopped in the middle of the road, and John noticed something was wrong. As soon as Pitcha stepped out of the piano class, a car approached the little girl looking at the license plate. He quickly realized that they were the stalkers from before John got his gun dirty and fired a shot to show Pitcha the way to escape. Unfortunately, a policeman who was an accomplice of the kidnappers shot John in the back despite being wounded. He still tried to hold it. At this moment, Pitcha wanted to run back to him. When he saw John being shot by someone, seeing that, the girl ran to him, so the kidnappers took this opportunity and carried her with him. Leaving John unconscious on the way, he was taken to the hospital, but not because the police wanted to save his life. This filthy accused John of killing 2 British Mexican policemen who dared to run amok in their country. Moreover, he was accused of being an accomplice to the kidnappers when the police chief was relentlessly accusing John. A female reporter questioned why the 2 police officers who were shot had face in that neighborhood, while they were not on patrol duty. Here the police chief stiffened his throat at the female reporter's steely argument. Her colleague also said that it was too perverted. Police officers who also deserved to be honored the sentence made the other reporters laugh along. The police chief was disfigured because he lost face at the mansion of Lisa and Sam. Reporters and police came to investigate Lisa's house when they heard the news of their daughter's abduction, and they were worried and cried because everyone understood how evil the Mexican terrorists were. Even if they are saved, who knows how they will torture Pitcha. This side Sam was talking to the family's lawyer when the police at the police station came looking for him, and the lawyer saw that there was no need for the police to intervene in this case because everyone had seen their incompetence. But Inspector Victor said that they had received a telegram from the minister and were forced to investigate the kidnapping. He also said that if the kidnapper called and asked his family to bring the ransom but had to go alone, don't be foolish to do it. These guys were notorious thugs, so they asked Sam's family to split the money in half and put it in 2 separate well bags. Furthermore, the location was a crowded fountain so that they could easily be mixed in. Then Sam handed over the phone to Inspector Victor, who told the kidnappers that Sam couldn't go alone because he had a history. Heart disease. The terrorists had no choice but to agree to let him take a driver. However, they asked that the car was not equipped with any weapons and had to remove the cover on the trunk of the car in case anyone hid in it and harmed the extortionists. Just as Sam had scheduled for 1 o'clock that morning, They asked him to drive 2 laps around the fountain. Then he had to take off his shirt so they knew his location. In the southeast, there is a phone booth and he will be directed by them next. Here Sam discovers a map left by them. He quickly got into the car and told Victor to drive away. When he arrived, he did as the robbers told him to put money in the trunk of a white car. Unexpectedly, as soon as he left, another group came to collect the money. The kidnappers panicked because their upper hand was amputated. Sam was worried because he was worried that the terrorists would think he was flipping. Sure enough, the leader called and questioned him why he killed his nephew. He said that Picha would suffer the same. Seeing this, Lisa lost her temper. She snatched the phone from her husband and begged the kidnapper, but he coldly hung up. Lisa madly curses the police because she thinks they themselves caused this and made the leader angry and would harm her daughter. Since this job was recommended to John by Zabern, he also felt that he had some responsibility after waiting for the herds to leave, and Zabern sneaked in to visit his friend who was in the hospital. Here Zabern met Miju, a former director of Interpol. Through the conversation, Miju suspected that the kidnappings in Mexico were all related to the police here. Apparently the authorities were involved and John was the only witness. Miju advised Zabern to let them take him to another safer place. Zabern agreed at once. Since at least Miju was on his friend's side, he was taken to a small room, and Zabern remained on duty until John regained consciousness, and he immediately asked Picha if she was safe. And Mr. Zabern told him that the kidnappers had stolen the money, so they had killed her. Hearing this, John burst into tears. He touched the chain of peace that the little girl had given him and vowed to take revenge. After talking to the doctor, he said that he was very seriously injured and needed a month of rest or he would swallow the garlic. But because he was so angry, John refused to stand still. He lay down reading the information of the people in the kidnapping and extortion ring. Mizu and his subordinates give him a few photos for him to identify, but he doesn't recognize anyone. Mizu said that they were all perverted police officers guarded by a guild. The head of these people was none other than Victor. That night, John decided to leave, not caring that his body was bleeding. After a while, they discovered Mariana's car following behind. She was the reporter who spoke up to the police to help John, and his friend thinks she was just following to exploit the news and write the newspaper. Already, the reporter, who is like a bunch of vultures stalking and eating, Weyburn advises John to leave Mexico. He also arranged to cross the border for John to be treated safely in the United States, but John refused because he wanted to investigate and report to Pizza. He began his investigation from the scene of the kidnapping. John stood around the piano class that day looking for the termite. After a while, John was resting on the bench when Mariana approached to greet him, saying that a lot of people were looking for him. She said that she had come here to help him because she shared the same purpose as John. Mariana has been investigating Victor's organization for a long time, but there is still no evidence to accuse him and his degenerate juniors. Before leaving, she handed John her business card and said that she was ready to support him at any time. Next, he asked Jay Byrne to help me with some things, and the information was already written down on paper. Then he went back to Pitch's house and packed up his things, and he asked the housekeeper to show him her room. Now everything is the same as before, and this person is gone. John is distressed that a kind and intelligent girl like Pitcha would have such a tragic ending. Suddenly, he remembered that Pitcha had written the number plate of the kidnapper's car in his notebook when he was looking for it. Lisa walked in. John felt guilty, so he was confused. Explaining that he had just come to pack up his things, Lisa didn't blame John, but blamed herself and her husband for not caring more about Pitcha. They were busy getting rich without caring about their desires. He promised Lisa that he would do everything he could to make the kidnappers and all those involved pay for their lives. But now John will make the bullets he fires for the cause of revenge. The fact that he asked Jay Byrne was also done, and the friend brought a lot of hot black goods for John to choose from. Later, John called Mariana to ask her to get the information of the person with the license plate he was suspicious of, and by relationships, she easily found 10 people with corresponding license plates. At the Federal Investigative Agency, Father Miju was questioning Mariana why she hadn't told him anything about John. Although he may be a witness and innocent, what John has done for the past 16 years has not been good. John was an assassin, and now she was a follower of the enemy. Crazy enough to help him identify the owner of the car, Mariana retorted that John could go to places they didn't. He is outlawed and not subject to the same framework as the two of them. Miju may be afraid of the police force in Mexico, but John is different. Therefore, he will easily touch even the biggest rulers here. After a moment of persuasion, Miju agreed, partly because he had also attached Mariana's sister a long time ago. After obtaining the identity information from the female journalist, John drove to a labor area in the city. Here, the whole Hammer 8 is very complicated. He quickly stopped a guy when he just climbed into the car and threatened him to drive away to a field where the resistance to him began torture this guy and threatened that if he doesn't declare the truth, the only way to worship him is to go back to worship his grandparents. This guy is the guy who drove the pitch a corner car at that time. John still remembers his face, seeing that this guy's face is still weighing yes. John frantically took a knife and cut a finger to scare this guy. He begged him to spare him and said that he himself had only received the order to take hostages and did not know anything else. He didn't know who the bunch's name was because he had never shown up. The only thing he knew about the leader was the nickname of the voice, because the leader always only used his phone to instruct them. Having the information he needed, John did not hesitate to send this king of blows back to him in ecstasy. Don't see him smiling at Pitcha a few days ago and think he was honest. Reality proves that in his heart John is still a cold-blooded assassin, and he will not forgive those who have touched his beloved. John vowed to create the scene with a car name. Then he went to a disco to find the next accomplice to catch the corner. He had an absolutely greasy body with a big birthmark on his face. He held a gun and showed him a picture of the little girl, and he was forced to lead him to where the cutters were hiding. John used a gun to wipe out the entire flood den, and he kept 3 men to ask for clues. John dirted the picture photo again to reveal information about the person behind the kidnapping. The fat guy was still hard, so he immediately ate one of his bullets. When the curly-haired man saw this, he panicked and said that they were just hired laborers. They extort money to kidnap someone else. He was paid $200 a week for missions. John angrily asked if you guys had killed her, right? He quickly explained that the new bunch was Pitch's killer. Father. This guy said that a dirty guy had raised their upper hand and killed the bunch guy's brother. The person behind it was none other than Victor. John then shoots the man to take revenge on Pitcha. Although he didn't kill her with a gun, he was involved in kidnapping her. From the fat woman's mouth, he learned about the process of the kidnappers torturing Pitcha. After the torture was finished, they threw her close to the trunk of the car and left. After that, the lady wanted to save her life, so she let John save another girl. Before leaving the bar, he did not forget to douse gasoline and set the place on fire and chase the dancing people out of here. Even though the bar was on fire, the people were still screaming for joy. After the incident, John called Mariana to inform her that she had just saved another girl from the kidnappers. It turned out that the girl's name was Camilla and she had just been kidnapped last night, and Mariana had come to the scene to find John. Then he gave her a bank card of the name Tak Shen that had been processed by him. He asked her to investigate who had dropped money into this account every week. From there, they can trace the whereabouts of the cluster name. As for Victor, the reporter said that he was arrested while he was in the trunk of a car with $50,000 in cash. But Victor still did not admit that he was not tried because he had murdered the informant. The policeman who arrested him also died unexpectedly. John learned that Victor was living at the time of Judiso, so he drove over to check on the situation. He was protected 24 out of 24 with a guard fence around him. John knew that it was impossible to fight in close combat, because the British were now very weak because of injuries. Victor was escorted by a convoy that was even grander than the president. Seeing that, John chose an apartment with a wide view opening the door to the old landlord. He said that he was just looking at it a little and wouldn't harm his family as long as they kept silent. Then John quickly armed himself and a few submarines when the couple told him that God taught us to forgive. John replied that forgiveness was God's job, and his job was to bring them up to see him. He coldly appeared on the road and fired at the rest of the cars. He shot the driver deadly, then got into the car and threatened Victor to drive away. He stripped Victor's clothes and brought him to the scene of the robbery between the dirty men and the kidnappers. He said that the border policemen were no different from those bastards with buffalo heads and horses. It was their corruption that caused the unjust death of little Pitcha. Victor remained fearless and said that he was the leader of the guild. If John dared to harm him, his life would be hard to keep. John laughed and said that the little association, like the eyes of his nose, collapsed with one shot. You've touched my last limit. John says that he will make a bomb and insert it into Victor's target hole. Then he turned on the recorder and set a timer for 5 minutes to let Victor moon his family. Finally, Victor was scared and confessed everything. Victor wasn't behind the kidnapping, but he was the one who got his hands on the $10 million and drove the kidnappers crazy and took the hostages. And this is not the first time Victor has done this. It was his work that pushed many victims to death. When John asked where the other $10 million was, Victor confessed that there was only $2.5 million in each pocket. He was also very sorry that he himself was also pranked. The person who exchanged the money was none other than Sam's personal lawyer. At this point, he realized that the kidnapping was not simply a crime syndicate. It involved a lot of big-hearted people, so if he hadn't strained it, Pitch's death would have been hit by his younger brother, Victor, begging John to spare his life. He had sincerely declared, but it was easy for him to ignore it. When the clock was counting down to a few seconds, John left, ignoring the explosion and landslide behind him, leading to the death of the crane of the empty visitor, except for John, who went to the lawyer's house and found that he had been murdered by someone. The headless corpse was swollen in the swimming pool. He went inside to search for documents and found the board. The lawyer's bank statement that unexpectedly included $2.5 million transferred by a man named Jordan to John called Mariana for her to query the money. Don't forget to remind the female journalist to investigate Peter's father's bank account. It is not clear why John did so. He went to the old boss's house to confront. Lisa also did not